Now let's do the I-192. Here it is. The person is not going to have their A number. Their full name is their first, middle, last, and last. It doesn't need to be last first. Their date of birth over here. Their place of birth you'll be getting from their birth certificate. It's three things. The actual location of where they were born, their city or town, and the state or province, say Apatzingan, Michoacan, Mexico. Their present citizenship or nationality is generally going to be where they were born. Their present address should be the same that you have on their I-918 form and also in Abacus. These should get filled by Abacus, and you don't need their email address. You should put their telephone number, but it's not going to self-fill from Abacus. And then the addresses at which somebody has resided in the last year, last 5 years, you can see here it doesn't say that you have to say what date that they lived there. You also don't need to put their email address or their telephone number here, so just list them. Some people can't remember where they have lived on a certain street. It's okay just to put the street. Some people can't even remember anything except the town where they lived. We want to do everything we can to find as much information as we can, but if that's all they can do, that's the best that we can do. They list 4 different places, including the present address, so that's 5 altogether for a 5-year period, so that usually is enough for everybody. But if it's not, then you can just attach an additional form. You'll just say, see attachment, and then you'll attach a sheet of paper that has the heading attachment to I-192 and then the applicant's name. Okay? Pretty easy. You're going to skip 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And then I'm going to take this out so you'll see where to get it. Go to exclamation mark in the shared drive, exclamation mark U visas, and then within there exclamation mark U practice materials, and then U starters for case after first appointment, and you will see this document, language for form I-192 question 12. So grab that and paste it into number 12. And you'll see that it says, we think we've caught them all, but in case we haven't caught every inadmissibility factor, if you find additional things in the application form or in the biometrics check or in the check of any alien file that the person has on file with the Immigration Service, please also waive those. I'm just going to briefly explain the ways in which that is and potentially is not helpful. It will be helpful for getting everything waived to get you non-immigrant status. We are not entirely sure, though, that if you just say, for example, please waive everything, that when you go to adjust status, or worse, if you travel outside of the United States and you go to a consular appointment and you want to say, look, I had all of the grounds waived, if the consulate asks for your I-192 application and they say, look, you didn't even ask to have visa fraud waived, or you didn't even ask to have the 10-year bar waived, how can we think that the Vermont Service Center actually waived that? Practitioners have said that it is best to do everything you can to identify everything. Therefore, in that document that I told you about, in addition to this language, we've listed the most common inadmissibility grounds: crime involving moral turpitude, involving a controlled substance, presence without permission. That's the one we already put in there because 99% of our clients are here without permission. Failure to attend removal proceedings, as we discussed with the I-918, willful misrepresentation of a material fact to get an immigration benefit, false claim of U.S. citizenship. Alien smuggling is fairly common. And let us just assume that the person that we're completing this for did help his spouse and children enter the United States by paying a coyote. So I've already asked, please waive everything that you can think of, but specifically unlawful presence and alien smuggling. Now this guy was also in the United States. Well, let's actually continue. Passport, none or expires within 6 months of filing an EU application. That's going to be for, and I discussed this in the 918 section, if a father won't sign paperwork permitting his minor child to get a passport, that child is going to have to get the passport requirement waived, and the passport requirement is 212A7B1. Another reason would be that the applicant just can't afford it right now. So that would be a reason that they wouldn't have it. In which case we would grab that and stick that in that same language. Previously ordered removed, now that's going to be an expedited removal or a removal by an immigration judge, or an in absentia order after somebody's been paroled into the United States. 212A9B would be somebody who has 1 year of unlawful presence followed by a lawful entry. So that's not going to be all that common but at this stage, but we will need to get those sometimes for our clients who want to leave the United States and then come back. But one of the ones we do see commonly is entry without inspection after an immigration violation. So that immigration violation can be simply more than a year in unlawful presence. So it's also called the permanent bar. Luckily, when we're doing U visas, it's not a permanent bar at all. It's just another little thing that you have to ask to have waived. So it's either going to be somebody who entered the United States or who was in the United States for more than a year. So that is an immigration violation, which is called unlawful presence. Or it could be that they had a removal, an expedited removal. That's another immigration violation. And then if they enter without inspection after that, they have this thing called the permanent bar. And that's actually fairly common among our clients. Sometimes people think that the permanent bar is for somebody who EWI'd more than once. But remember that it's not simply the multiple times that they entered without inspection. It's that second or third entry without inspection comes after a year of unlawful presence in the United States. Unlawful presence doesn't start accruing until April 30th, 1997. So sometimes you'll find that the first person in the family who comes to the United States comes well before then and may have unlawful presence, from 1992 to 1996, then leaves and then comes back in, say, 1998. Although they entered without inspection after that qualifying date, their unlawful presence was all before that, and so they don't have an immigration violation with which they followed it by an entry without inspection. However, many people who have multiple EWIs will have this. You just have to remember that it's after either a year of unlawful presence or some other kind of immigration violation. Voluntary departure and voluntary return are not an immigration violation for this term. So we're going to grab INA 212A9C and put it in here, and that's everything that he's got. So we will go on. We'll visit the other inadmissibility factors in just a moment. We're going to say he has not previously filed an application for advance permission, and then that's all you have to say. From everything through here is only somebody who is not applying for U and T status. Pretty easy form. The thing that we're going to think about in waiver practice is if somebody has all of these grounds, if they have these multiple grounds, we're going to ask them, even though they are all immigration violations, and each in and of themselves are not particularly serious, the fact that there are 3 of them, we will ask this person to produce some kind of evidence of attachment to the United States. So, for example, birth certificates of any U.S. citizen children, any other kinds of ties to the United States, like membership in the church, payment of taxes. So this is a great opportunity for people to be able to show that they've been filing and paying their taxes. In extreme circumstances where somebody might have a criminal violation, or if they don't have any of these other kinds of things, we would ask for a letter from a community leader, not just friends, not just co-workers, not just family members, unless there's some extraordinary story that they have to tell. What's not useful is a letter that says, I know Jose Cortez and he's a good guy. Instead, it needs to say, one day when I was when I was stricken with a heart attack, Jose Cortez gathered up money very quickly to be able to get a taxi for me and accompany me to the hospital. Or that he helps carry groceries or something like that. He's also going to include a statement in his declaration that says it would be a hardship for me if I had to leave the United States, and I have ties in the United States, and I'm a person who should be able to stay in the United States. I'm a worthy person. So this is where we give people an opportunity to talk about their equities. What a good parent they are, what a good worker they are, what a good member of the community, any kind of church membership. So those will all be things that we will include in the evidence in support of the I-192 application. So now let's go real quick back to that list of possible inadmissibility factors. Crime involving moral turpitude is fraud crimes, violence crimes, and sexual crimes. Driving under the influence is not a crime involving moral turpitude. The reason that we even take it seriously for purposes of the I-192 is that the I-192 is a discretionary determination. And once somebody's got to complete it anyway, because they have 212A6A, even if that's all they have, if they also have a DUI, whoever is determining that that the person is deserving of that is going to take into account positive and negative factors, and a DUI is a negative factor in that kind of analysis. A crime involving moral turpitude, it has also a petty offense exception and a juvenile violation exception. If it was only one crime and it was for a maximum 1-year sentence, then it doesn't count as a conviction of a crime involving moral turpitude. However, back to that same analysis where if they have a petty offense and it doesn't itself trigger the crime involving moral turpitude ground of inadmissibility, we think that it is still important to request to address it with the RRR statement and with documentation about how the person is, contributes to their community and would suffer if they couldn't stay in the United States and has ties to the United States, over and above what they would normally have to submit for the INA 212A6A. So they're still only doing the I-192 for 212A6A, but we're going to ask them to document it more. Just INA 212A6A, the Immigration Service has said you do not have to submit anything besides the I-192. We have increasingly been submitting I-192s for permanent bars or for people with voluntary returns and things like that, and even alien smuggling, without any documentary evidence, just a statement in the applicant's own declaration about why they deserve a positive determination on the discretionary determination of their I-192, and we have been getting those approved. So we are, as much as we want to practice the best possible immigration law, we also want to serve the maximum number of people, and so best practices, as somebody said at a meeting recently, is knowing what is too much and not doing that. So, crime involving a controlled substance, very serious with immigration. It will require substantial equities to overcome. Present without permission, we already went through that. That's the one everybody has. Failure to attend removal proceedings, that means actually that somebody has an in absentia removal order. So you will have marked, yes, I have been ordered removed from the United States in the I-918. Willful misrepresentation, we talked about that again when we were talking about the I-918. That's if somebody lies to be able to enter the United States. False claim of U.S. citizenship, generally what happens is somebody is trying to enter the United States. They claim to be a U.S. citizen. That will end up resulting in an expedited removal if the person is caught at the border doing that. So not only will they have a entry without inspection after an immigration violation, the permanent bar, so they have an expedited removal, then they enter afterward. So that's the entry without inspection after immigration violation. Also, if they were falsely claiming to be a U.S. citizen, you'll also want to mark and move 212A6C into that category that should be waived. Alien smuggling, again, is extremely common. Passport, that's generally only for children. Previously ordered removed, that's going to be somebody with an expedited removal or who was ordered removed by a judge even if they didn't leave. 212A9B, I already mentioned, is the 10-year bar. It usually isn't something that comes into play until somebody leaves the United States after getting U status and wants to re-enter, but they triggered the 10-year bar after they when they left. DHS has reason to believe the applicant is a drug trafficker. That is as serious as any crime involving controlled substances, extremely serious to immigration. Prostitution, we talked about this in the I-918 context. It is definitely something that can be waived fairly easily. And because we are gender neutral, not only is it the person who engages in prostitution, but also tries to procure a prostitute. They're both 212A2D, but there's subsection I and subsection II. 212A1A these are the health grounds in 212A1. A drug abuser, so that's somebody who admits to having been a drug abuser. Or if they see somebody with a lot of drug offenses, they will assume that that person is a drug abuser. Interestingly, a drug abuser is defined by immigration as anybody who has used drugs more than once. Health or mental condition creating a danger to self or others, we discussed in the I-918 video. It can include being suicidal, it can be having some kind of contagious illness. And you'll want to, and this is a great opportunity to waive it. Public charge is not taken into consideration by immigration, but we may as well just grab it. What's interesting about public charge, and the reason we don't usually put this, is public charge is a forward-looking ground of inadmissibility. So if somebody is going through the regular immigration process where public charge could be an issue, and they are sitting at their interview with immigration after having gone through the long family process to apply for permanent residence, at that time immigration will look at their whole past history of receiving public benefits and their current work history and look into the future to see whether the person is likely to become a public charge. So that's why we don't generally put 212A4 in to ask to have it waived, because all of our clients are going to be able to get working once they get their work permit. The only unwaivable bar is to be a Nazi persecutor or have participated in genocide, torture, or extrajudicial killing. And also we have information if a child is going to be needing the I-192, but they are not going to be needing that.